Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat with you guys about something, but let me get a sip of my water first. My radio voice going on, let's talk about this. All right, this is a strategy you guys have seen me use a couple different times. It's stuff I do with some of my clients. And like you guys remember last summer when I first started getting leaner, I made quite a bit of a change in body fat. Then I stopped for a few months and stayed more or less the same, worked on recomposition or a little lean bulking. Now I'm back to cutting again. So again, we're obviously getting leaner here, right? Getting leaner, we're seeing it in the training vlogs. So one of the strategies I like to use sometimes, and it can sound contradictory physiologically, because something I've told people oftentimes is that for retaining muscle tissue when you're in a deficit, sometimes it's really important to be able to use the same weight. And I tell people that your main big work sets, be careful of letting the weight drop. Sometimes even the reps or volume need to drop to keep that weight there, but that tension itself can be valuable for retaining muscle. Okay, it absolutely can be. So I've told people that physiologically there can be a lot of merit to continuing to try to train heavy when you're cutting. But we also need to keep in mind the context of it's possible to recomposition in a deficit even if energy is down, if workloads, work set, recovery, food is still, everything is sufficient. Sometimes we can recomp a little. So I think it's also very important that we train hard. And one of the things that I do like to do, and I've used this, again, you guys saw me do it last year, started easing back into it again now, quite a bit more this week, of saying, okay, I have a strength background. And one of the things that I have to ensure, to absolutely ensure that I retain muscle or gain any muscle while I'm in this deficit, because again, I can get some novel training response. I haven't been doing all this bodybuilding training like I am now. There can probably be some novel training response to that, right? I may gain a little muscle if I play my cards right, but I need the sets to be ultra high quality. In other words, I need high quality sets. I need muscles going into the full ranges of motion. I need those lengthened positions, everything else. Okay, I have to have that if I want to ensure that to happen. So psychologically, what I have to be leery of, I have a strength background. I think most people have realized here, I am pretty addicted to strength. So me even training for the aesthetic thing finally is unusual, right? Not something that you guys have seen me really actually do with any degree of seriousness compared to the strength side. And again, people say, yeah, you have. No, I've thrown in a little fluff at the end of strength workouts. I've taken powerlifting workouts and said, well, let's throw in some curls and delts at the end. That's not really the same thing. Not the same thing. So now I'm actually training like a bodybuilder on a split routine, arm day, all that stuff. So people have never seen me do. One of the things I'm having to watch is that tendency for me to go, I need to lift real heavy. Here's the problem with that. I will let it compromise form. I'll let it compromise form, compromise range of motion, right? Because if I get too obsessed with it, what are you going to see me do? Well, I need to maintain this strength. I need to be able to do rep work with 315 on the bench, or even I want to maintain those reps with 275 for sets across. See the issue there? I'm trying to cut, stuff can get a little harder. So I dropped all the way down 245 for benching today. Squatting, I'm probably going to do really similar coming up. Deadlift will probably be the only thing I keep heavy. That's my one thing that I have to have in mentally. Like for me mentally, I've got to have heavy deadlifts. All right, that's one lift. Everything else I'm looking at, as long as I'm taking sets real close to failure or hitting failure. You guys saw me fail on incline today, the last set, right? Do a lot of sets with 0 reps in reserve, grindy, and then I failed an incline. I did a lot of sets to failure today though too. All right, as long as we're doing that with heavy enough weight and good enough workload, we're getting good stimulus. If we're going through appropriate ranges of motion, applying mechanical tension. Psychologically, I will have that tendency to go, well, I can keep more weight on the bar if I start arching more and more on the bench. See where I'm going? If I just arch more, maybe throw the belt and the wrist straps back on, all that stuff. But what am I doing? I'm compromising mechanical tension to do that because I'm losing that bottom range of motion. That's what I need. I really need that flat back benching. Okay, I've got to have that. I need to get those pecs into that stretch position at the bottom. I need to do it for enough reps to get a good training stimulus, enough hard reps that are real close to failure. By me reducing the weight, I can force myself to focus on form and still do that while we're still doing hard sets. And I'm probably going to do the same thing on some of my other exercises of going, okay, maybe if I reduce on the squats, I can make absolutely sure that I go deep every single rep. Okay, it's important. It's important that we go deep on every rep. But if I start getting hung up on the numbers because I'm trying to lift really low reps, and I can always add that back in for phases if I need to, okay, we'll have that tendency to give up. I need to be all in on this training because that is one reason I do end cuts. My strength it starts to go down. I don't like that. So now I can play tricks on myself of saying, well, the weight's gone down because I've increased reps. Because I'm staying tighter with the form. What's more important, getting leaner or having a really big bench and squat all the way? Right now I need to get leaner and I need to maintain muscle or gain muscle. So we have to adjust our training to trick ourselves psychologically sometimes. So in this case, it's playing a psychological trick on myself. And I do the same thing. I have some of my clients, one of my guys has a really prolonged cut. He's like, we've been cutting for months. He's like, I want to go be beach ready. He's like, whatever, I'm 20% body fat or 21% on a deck, so I want to be 12% by this certain dates coming up in the summer. I need to stick it out. I don't have him doing anything heavy. We're doing everything, 8+ reps. Everything. His bench, squats, everything. Doing all high rep work for him. Because he needs to stick it out. Because he set a goal, and that's the most important thing with his goal. He's like, I need to have as much muscle as possible, and I want to be 12%. He's decided on that number. So he wants to be 12% on that DEXA scan. So what have I done? I just take it over. We do everything in that rep range to like 0 to 1 rep in reserve. That way he's no longer thinking, I've got to have this big bench. Okay, got to have this big bench. And I will do that with clients who need that psychologically. When the cutting becomes the highest priority. There are times when we have to do that. And it works. It's a good psychological trick. It lets us go away from that. Because not everyone can deal with the ego of dealing with those big lifts. The really big lifts, particularly their squat, bench, and deadlift. Man, if their 3 rep max turns into a 1 rep max, guys get upset. All right? They're 3x6, they can't do 6s with it anymore as they're cutting, particularly on bench, because that happens a lot with bench when you're cutting. They get upset. This plays a trick to get us to focus more upon the quality of the work. I said it's purely a psychological trick. We can go back and do the heavy lifts later. Once you get to the body fat you need to be at, then we can hit some big ass lifts again. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.